Yo, what's up, guys? It's Topics here, and I have a treat for y'all. Probably weren't expecting this, but I have a plus 20 Seed of the Triumvirate commentary. So, this is, the third high key commentary I've done so far, and we're going to talk about this. This dungeon is typically Prot Warrior's bread and butter. There's a lot of awesome spell reflex in here, so I'm excited to talk through this for you guys. So, um, as we start with this dungeon, we are doing a triple subjugator pull. um, it can be scary to gather as Prot Warrior, or any tank really, because you don't want to get charged by the champions. Because the rule with the champions is if you leave melee range, they'll charge you. So like basically, if you move more than 10 yards away, they'll charge you and put a nasty bleed on you. However, there's a grace period when you pull them before this happens. I believe it's somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds. So essentially what that means is when you're gathering, you do not have to worry about getting charged by them unless you're really far away from them for like 5 seconds after you gather. But at that point, they've all walked in. So you can axe throw, you can move pretty fast here on gather. They shouldn't charge you at the start unless, like I said, unless you're like running away from them. Uh, so what I do here is I charge this first pack. I leap. I don't leap all the way over here because I don't want a massive run from over here all the way to this other side. I kind of leap like around right here, just enough to so that I can hit them with thunderclap, and then I throw an axe at the back left pack, and then I basically gather at this skull mark. So you'll see it in motion here, and I do a shield wall on pull. So that's why I gather this, and then obviously make sure my back's not exposed. After shield wall drops, you can demo shout the mobs. You'll probably have to impending victory pretty early on and pull to heal yourself up too, and then you want to save that second shield wall charge for later on in the pull when it gets spicy. Of course, you want to make sure you have the Fearless talent on that turns your Berserker Rage into a movement impairing removable as well, so that when you get targeted by the subjugators, you can press Berserker Rage and it'll remove uh, that circle on you. And it's a 30-second cooldown, so you can use it pretty often. So you basically get to use it once on this first pull, and then you get to use it once on the next pull, and you pretty much get to use it once per subjugator pull. But it definitely helps mitigate some of that damage and make it a lot easier for your healer. So yeah, we're gonna move into this next pull again. I'm gonna use that Berserker Rage on the first Subjugate cast, and I'm just inching a little bit over here to this other Champions pack because once I feel stable and this 4 pack is killed off a little bit more, as you see me remove that circle there, I'm going to be axe throwing these champions, which again, remember, it's okay to axe throw them from far away. They're not going to charge you at first because there's that grace period where, they can walk in before charging you. So you'll see me about to pull this here. So I throw an axe over there and they all run in. And then make sure you hit them with like Thunderclap as they come in here, or just stun them if your Thunderclap's not up so they don't just like run in and melee someone. But what happens here is as soon as the subjugator's dead, that's when boss spawns. Then you can just take the rest of this funnel into boss. But again, don't just like run over to the boss right now because the champions will charge you. Just throw an axe or taunt the boss. And then you're going to want to spell reflect this Void Slash because it does massive damage. So this is the first instance of spell reflect being absolutely broken in here. You basically have it for every second Void Slash, or potentially every Void Slash. It depends on how the spell queuing is. I don't think every Void Slash is at the same time. I think 2 of them are close together and then like the other one's far apart. So I think you can use Spell Reflect on like 2 out of every 3 Void Slashes. So just make sure you press a defensive for the other one. But I just want you guys to see how much damage I pop off for at the beginning of this pull. Because I'm going to Spell Reflect this. Watch this. Boom, I shoot up to like 280k from that Spell Reflect. But yeah, while you have these champions active for funnel, just make sure you don't leave the champions. And then I'm basically inching over to this other pack because what you want to do is when the boss does this, basically, yeah, you just want to make sure you're close enough where it's safe to axe throw them and then hit them with GCDs as they walk in. Just to keep the funnel going on the boss, right? It's going to really help the dev DH if you pull this in to boss. And what I usually do in pugs is I kill the first 2 ads which are these ads right here. And I storm bolted them. Storm bolt is broken on these ads because it hits both of them. Because you have that hero talent where storm bolt hits more than one target. I always like killing the first two ads with pugs, and then we kite the rest. So every ad set after this, we're just gonna be kiting. So I think the monk is gonna paralysis one, and then we're just like using slows. And what you want to do is you just want to like rotate around the room with your kiting. Don't go like across mid, because it'll make the ads pathing a little bit weird. You basically just want to like rotate around the edge of the room. And when the ads get close, the monk can Ring of Peace, you can Shockwave, you can also use your Piercing Howl as a slow on these ads. And then, the rest of your group probably has likely one or two other abilities they can use as a slow. You see the Og has that one other one CC'd right now. So, and that's basically the name of the fight. You basically just do this until the boss is dead. So I'm just going to skip along here. Okay, so after the boss is dead, we're actually going right, and we're going to hang on this ledge. And you'll see the path that I take here. You can actually do a little jump up onto this other higher ledge here. And then we're going to be pulling this pack into the big rift dude. What's his name? The Rift Warden, yeah. So this is a dangerous pack. This is going to be your second pot. So you should pot and blow all CDs here. And you're basically going to be pressing defensives on cooldown. So you can have Spell Reflect rolling during the Rift Tear because it's magic AoE damage. And then other than that, you can have Shield Wall rolling, Demo Shout on the mobs. Don't be afraid to like health pot here. Or even use your 10% DR from Stone Form, because you don't need Stone Form in this dungeon for anything. So just use your Stone Form if your dwarf has a 10% DR. And then what you can also do is you can stun or Stormbolt the Umbral Fins, because the Umbral Fins are actually the dangerous ones here, because they basically continue to do more and more damage the longer they live to you. So if you stun or Stormbolt them for a few seconds, it'll basically just give you a couple seconds where the healer can top you back up or you can stabilize. After this, I'm leaping over to these Famished Brokens and pulling them into a Subjugator here. So you can actually just axe throw these dudes on the top of the hill. It's not LOS or anything. And then we're just playing this. And again, make sure you use your Berserker Rage to remove the first Subjugate. And then, again, double Umbral Fin is always scary because, like I said, they do more and more damage to you the longer they live. So you can see my health actually, like, will get chunked periodically here. A decent amount. 30, 40% chunk. And that's just their auto attacks. So, anyways, we're going to finish this pack off. And we're crossing this tentacle. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to pull these two Umbral Fins on the side. And then I'm going to pull the Rift Warden behind the Rift. And then we're going to be pulling the Adept once it gets closer. And you'll see like how much my health gets trucked from these Umbral Fins here. Can actually be quite scary. I need to get my Ignore Pain shield up here. But yeah, so I'm watching for the Adept as it's pathing close, and then I'm just going to like throw a couple axes and taunt. And then the thing with these Adepts is you want to make sure you're spell reflecting their Void Bash. Otherwise, you get knocked back, and if you get knocked back by the Adept far enough, the champions can charge you, right? So you don't want that to happen. So make sure that you're watching the Adept very closely and spell reflecting every Void Bash. And then again, this is a tough pack, so just defend. Have your defensives rolling. Don't be afraid to stun stuff just to give yourself a couple second breather. So we're gonna finish this off, and then these Rift Stalkers, they patrol up here, so I pull them in as we finish the Adept. And then as soon as the Adept's done, I'm kind of consciously aware that these Rift Stalkers are gonna leap and do a cast in a couple seconds here, so I just wait for them to do that, so that they're not sitting over here as we're gathering the next pull. There, and now I go gather this next pull. And I'm pulling all this stuff into the next Rift Warden. Again, this is a difficult pack because there's a lot of melee damage on the tank here. All this stuff is auto-attacking me because there's no casters. So, same thing as before. Use your defensives, have them rolling. Don't be afraid to stun. Use your Stone Form as defensive. And then pretty much about it for this. So I'm going to finish this off. All right, this next pull that I do is actually a very dangerous pull. So you do not want to do it too fast. If you do it too fast or you leave your group, you're probably going to die. Your healer's going to need to be healing you here. So I'm going to charge here, kick this. And so these are two champions. So again, you don't want to tag these and then leave because they'll charge you, right? So I'm making sure that I'm like slowly kiting this back so that I don't get charged. And then as soon as I'm like within distance, I tag this other pack here. And so this is another adept, so spell reflect the void bash. And then, if you can help kick the conjurer. But yeah, so you want to gather it slow like that. If you try and gather all this stuff too fast, since it's so spread apart, you're likely gonna get hit in the back. You're gonna get charged, or your healer's gonna be like too far away from you if you're just like leaping and charging really fast. So make sure you don't gather this too fast. I'm gonna skip this. All right, so we're gonna finish this here, and then we're gonna be, and wherever the patrol is in this big room, you want to go to the patrol first and then pull it into the Rift Warden. You don't want to pull the Rift Warden first and drag it all the way out to the patrol, because if it does its Rift Tear all the way out there, you're probably going to die. Because the Rift Tear is like buffed if it's too far from the Rift. So as you can see, I grab the pack and we are kicking the Conjurer in, or at least I hope we are. And then I'm pulling the Rift Warden. So this is how you want to gather this pack. Again, Spell Reflect the Void Bash. Is this coming up here? Oh, looks like I already did actually. But anyways, yeah, just help kick the Conjurer, Spell Reflect the Adept. This is the difficult pack for your healer because you got your Rift Stalkers leaping on people. You got the kick. And there's just a ton of stuff to dodge. So, but none of these mobs we haven't seen before. So as we finish this off, I'm grabbing these Famished Brokens over here and pulling them into boss for funnel. And this boss is very scripted. At this point in the season, I'm sure you guys know how this boss works. There's pretty much only one thing I want to talk about here, and it's soaking these orbs. So you're going to see I back into one of these orbs to soak it as a tank because it does almost nothing to me. And I try and soak one orb per set. So now the second set's coming up, I'm going to soak another one here. You'll see me back into it. What this does is it gives less orbs for our group to soak, and it makes it a lot easier for us to hit all of them. Because the more orbs that are up, the more damage it does soaking them as well for your team. So if you can soak one per set, that's usually what I aim for. And the only other thing as Prot Warrior here is, you want to rally one of the overloads. I typically don't do the first two, because typically that's when your healer's going to send a cooldown, and maybe your DK AUG or DH is going to send a raid cooldown, or sorry, raid defensives. I usually rally the third or fourth overload. Or sometimes I'll kind of play it by ear. If I see someone get leaped on at a really, really bad time from the bleed, at the same time AoE damage is going out, I'll sometimes rally that, but I usually just rally the third or fourth overload. That's pretty much all I have to talk about for this fight. We're gonna skip the fight here. Alright, so this is a tough fight to heal, so usually I look at my healer's mana and I make sure that they're good to go after this. If they need a drink, let them drink. If not, I start gathering the next pack. But there is some technical stuff with this next pull that I do. So we're going to go grab this destroyer on the right-hand side. And I'm basically going to drag it into the water to start. And the reason I don't play it over here and I drag it into the water to the start is because if you play it over here and you're dragging this destroyer all the way across the water, all the way up these stairs into the next pack, it's likely it's either going to do the circles on people at a bad time, or it's going to do a frontal as you're gathering the pack, because it has such a far ways to walk. So you actually want to pull it to here to start so that it has less distance to cover to go into the next pack. So by the time it does its next frontal, you're already gathered and it doesn't like do a weird frontal. So yeah, I like pulling into the water, and then we basically just do this in the water, dodge this first frontal, and then as soon as this first frontal is done, that's when I go into the next pull. And you can just go off to the side here. You don't want to go up the stairs and pull that middle guy. You go up to the side. So I'll tell you what happens. What happens if you don't pull it into the water like I did is He does a frontal about here because he had so far to walk. He does a frontal here, and he's like gonna frontal you as you're gathering the pack, and you're gonna have to move out of the way really awkwardly. But because I pulled him into the water 10 yards forward, it allows him to fully get into the next pack here before he does his frontal, but before he does circles again. So now he was able to walk all the way here and gather the pack before he just starts doing all those mechanics. Anyway, there's the destroyer circles and frontal, and then there's the double caster here. So basically, just finish this off, and then we're gonna do this skip. So those of you that haven't seen the skip before, you jump up onto this little ledge, and then you basically heroic leap up here. And so I think DH can get up there themselves. Og can get up here, and me. So it's basically the monk and the DK that needs help. And so the evoker is probably going to rescue one, or maybe they even Wernstone another one. But what you can always also do is you can stand on the edge with a 3-person mount. Make sure you eject the passengers with the little graphic over here. And you'll see me get really close. You'll see he missed there. You have to be like really close in this corner. He can jump and hop in a seat. There we go. Now you can see him on the side there. And then you just walk over here for him to get out. So yeah, what you don't want to do is you don't want to pull that pack that was over here first, because you don't want to risk those patrol casters walking into it. Here, we'll see in a second here. These two Voidbender casters, you do not want those two casters plus these conjurers and this pack. This is just disaster. So never pull this first. I always pull these other Shadow Weavers first. Here we go. And so what I'm doing here is, the reason I'm not going to this next pack right away is because I see that those casters are about to patrol into them, and I do not want 4 casters at once, because that would mean that each of us would have to have our kick perfectly marked on the mobs and nobody miss a kick. And I just don't trust that to happen in a pug, so I only want 2 casters at once, or I at least want to stagger them. So I'm waiting for these patrol casters to come back around again, and I'm going to tag them in. And then what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to wait for both of these guys to do their cast so we can kick them. And then I'm going to wait for their health to get a little bit lower, and then I'm going to chain. Because as long as they're staggered or they're not all the same health, it's not going to be as dangerous. I just think that's like a safe way to play this in a pug. Another thing to be conscious about is make sure you're dragging the mobs away from these rifts that are opened in the orbs, because it's harder the closer you stand to them. But if you're standing far away, it gives your group time to dodge them. See, now that you can see all the kicks are staggered and they're different HP, so I'm really not as worried about it. You can obviously just stun them or save your AoE kick as a Prot Warrior as well to help out kick some of these. Oh, that's another thing I should mention, is those first 2 Grand Shadow Weavers that we pulled that were by the steps, once those die, it's going to spawn boss. And that's why I want to pull them first and not last, because then you don't have to wait for boss RP. It just saves you like 5 seconds. But when boss spawns, it's going to knock you back. What you do not want to do is you don't want to be standing in a place that's going to knock you back into boss. Make sure that you're like standing over here so it knocks you away from boss, if that makes sense. I could just see someone standing in the wrong position. As you can see, we all got knocked back there. So yeah, we're just going to finish these off, kick the casters, and then just make sure I'm pulling the Shadow Weaver away from the rifts that they spawn. Once we finish that off, we're going to this pack. This is actually the nastiest pack in this area because it has double Conjure, Shadow Weaver, and there's just a bunch of upfront damage. And there's just a double caster the entire time. If an Umbra Bolt hits someone at the wrong time, they could just fall over. So use all your stops here. Use Shockwave, Stormbolt, AoE kick, normal kick, even use Shield Charge to help stun one of these casts if you can. But yeah, we're going to finish that off, and we're going to be lusting this 3rd boss. In my opinion, this is a way better lust than last boss. On high keys, you're going to 2-phase the last boss no matter what. On really, really high keys, you might even get close to the 3rd phase. So lusting is not going to really help you skip much there. But lusting this boss does help because this boss is brutal for basically everybody. What you can do, if your pug will allow you, or if you're in a coordinated group, is you want to spell reflect as many of these mind blasts as possible. It does like 2% boss HP. It's pretty big. So if you can get a spell reflect every 20 seconds on CD, you're gonna like knock like 20% off boss. Um, but it's hard to do in pugs because people don't know what to kick and what not to kick. Um, Second thing I want to talk about here, the tentacles have predetermined spawn locations. The locations are basically back of the room here, the side of the room by the ledge that you leapt down, and then the front of the room. So you'll kind of see I'm already positioned by where one's going to spawn. I'm a little bit off, but you can basically see it spawn right on us. And you see these other two spawn locations? These are standard. Now, the amount that spawns there is going to change, so it could be anywhere from 1 to 3, but there's always going to be at least one here, at least one, kind of by the ledge that you jump down, and one um, basically, a little bit closer to stairs. So what you should do as a tank before tentacles spawn is always pull them to one of these preset locations so that you're already on top of one of the tentacles. And then of course making sure that you're not like getting a cast on you while you're low HP or anything like that. So, and then you want to obviously leap to the next cluster and be killing them. And also right before this repulse goes off, make sure you have a tentacle selected and not boss, because you're not going to be able to charge to the boss. You're going to be too far away. But if you do have a tentacle selected, you should be able to charge right back to a tentacle. You'll see it happen here. So I get knocked away, and then I'm able to charge right back to a tentacle. Um, so that's how you kind of do this boss. Yeah, I want to show you another set of tentacles. So I think I choose to do the back location over here again for the preset one. You can see we're already right by two that spawn. So, it just helps you start DPSing the tentacles a little bit faster. But I think we had a death or two on this boss, which is pretty common in pugs. It's very hard to get through this boss deathless. Just with the amount of damage going out and the orbs flying all over the place. But anyways, we're going to finish this boss off. We finished the boss with 7 minutes left in the key, which is really good. This last boss, depending on how much DPS you have, is usually between 3:45 and like 4:30, somewhere in there. This boss takes you more than 5 minutes. You likely had a bad burn phase. So you pretty much just need maybe about 5:15 left after that boss to time this key, because there's a lot of RP here. Like 20 seconds of RP or something like that. It's pretty bad. But if you have 5:15, you should be able to time even on a really high key, as long as your DPS do a lot of damage during the burn. All right, so this boss, a couple things to discuss. So I decided to be a little bit edgy, and I actually do not have like big wigs to tell me when the tank bust is going to happen. For some reason, I find it very fun and interactive to actually just look at the rifts in the air. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So these rifts right here, this big rift, once there's 3 rifts in the air, you have about 3 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds before the boss is going to launch all of them at you, and that's the tank buster. But that's also the tank buster that you can reflect for massive damage. But you're not going to have reflect for every one of them. You're going to have reflect for every second one. So what you want to do is you want to reflect one set of the rifts getting thrown at you, and then you want to defensive the other set of the rifts. So you'll see me kind of watching them a little bit. That's why I have my camera tilted up. So we're rotating around, and I see this third rift pop up here, right? So I have spell reflect rolling, because I know that they're about to launch at me. And you'll see them launch at me, the spell reflect gets consumed, and I reflect big damage. That's why I shot up to 100k single target. Second thing, and I would recommend this, is you want to do the 4 and 2 method, because basically you can hit 4 rifts with the beams on the first phase, and then you only have 2 left for the second phase. This just makes it a lot easier for everybody involved than doing 3 and 3. It's just the way it is, because you can just hit multiple rifts with one beam. So someone can actually like step out. But in order to do that, you need to drag the boss to the corner, and the corner that you do it is typically this one over here. So you can see there's a note here. So as soon as this rotating disintegrate is done, I'm gonna either leap over there or like just run over there if I'm close enough. So you'll see this happen. I run over here immediately. You want to like hug the wall. And this is basically where you're going to stand. That's going to allow people to hit multiple rifts with one beam. This is also about when the next tank buster is going to hit me, and I think I actually might. Did I miss it? No. So yeah, so there's 3 rifts here. I'm probably going to shield wall assume. I would assume. Okay, I actually was late. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I was actually late and I took that natty, which is very dangerous because you could easily fall over if you take that natty and you're, maybe not full health. Um, yeah, so here's more rifts forming. There's 3 up. I have Spell Reflect popped. It's going to consume it. Boom. And then this time we only have 2 to hit. And this boss is scripted. So the first set of beams never targets the tank, which is why it allows you to drag the boss to the corner and position it because you don't have a beam on you. The second set always targets a tank. So I basically always, pre-position myself to get one of the beams down. There we go. So yeah. And then basically you're just gonna, this is a great time to go into battle stance and to use potion, defensive, or sorry, not potion, potion and avatar, and just do as much damage as possible. The DH admitted that he like messed up here after the key, so like we have like no damage for this burn. As you can see, this is a really, really bad burn. I actually think I would have beaten my timer on this plus 20 key had it not been for this really bad first burn, because I'll just basically skip to the next burn. As you'll see, we don't even get the boss dead on the second burn. You basically want the boss almost dead after the second burn. Like ideally you want them like sub 10%. Because what's gonna happen, because the boss is so healthy, we pretty much get to almost the next burn. So oh, I almost went too far there. So yeah, you can see Grim Course is coming up, and then it's basically you can do the Symphony of Eternal Night. So like we're almost getting to the third burn, which is like very, very, very slow. A slow boss. Because remember, we had 7 minutes after we came out of the third boss. We've already been fighting this boss for 5 minutes and 20 seconds. So, which is a very slow boss. Yeah, so that's the key, guys. Tried to talk through as much as I could in detail. I know this is typically a key that's like pretty hard for people to do. But hopefully I gave you a lot of, tips and tech for Prot Warrior and a lot of good pointers. I know that I've gotten good feedback on these videos. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you want more Protection Warrior and tank content in Mythic Plus. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.